On to the Recreation Commission meeting of January 18th, 2023. Would you all please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey there, Bill.
Okay, the first item on our agenda this evening is the approval of the minutes of December 5, 2022. Is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of December 5, 2022. Is there any comment or discussion? Seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And that's unanimous. Next is the approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 14, 2022. Is there a motion?
I make that motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the minutes of December 14, 2022. Is there any discussion or comment? Seeing none, we'll put that to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that's unanimous.
Abstain.
Abstain, I'm sorry. That's 301. I do not see anyone here tonight for public participation, so we will move right along to the Director of Parks and Recreation report. Mr. Regan.
All right, thank you. Happy New Year, everyone. Just some quick updates. Gym floor was all set, was completed on December 26th, the 7th, I'm sorry. They were just in there one day, repaired some of the deeper surface scratches. Feedback from the participants has been good. And the Visco building roof was also taken care of over the holiday time frame between Christmas and New Year's, and it looks great. They did find some rot over the door area and around the chimney. They did have to replace about 6 sheets of plywood, and they redid some flashing around the chimney. So there was a little bit of an increase in cost. We had it the contract for $12,600, and it came in just under $15,000, which is what we had set aside. So we did eat up almost the whole amount that was set aside. But the roof looks good, and we're weather tight again from up above at the Visco building. At our last meeting, we discussed the Skilton Lane parcel. I do have a quick update. During the town's title search, there was some potential issues with the title. So it may be on hold. It may not go before town meeting as planned in January. I'll keep you updated when I get any updates from town hall. The assistant program coordinator position has been advertised. If you recall, that is the position that was vacated when Jesse Hampson was promoted to the program coordinator. It was posted on January 4th and has a closing date of this Friday, January 20th. Applications and resumes have been coming in, picking up over the last week or so. We hope to have interviews scheduled by the end of the month. The interview committee will consist of Assistant Director Kelly Lehman, the Program Coordinator Jesse Hampson, and myself. This is how we did this position in the past. If anyone would like to, thinks we should have a commissioner on that, we can do that as well. So, but in the past, we have always had, it was just staff. So let me know if anyone thinks we should do.
All right, before we move on, anyone have any comments on the interview process? Kev?
No, if it's not one of the higher positions.
Alan? Any thoughts?
No, I trust you guys.
Okay,
How many applicants so far?
right now we have 14.
All right.
There are 3 or 4 other positions similar out there right now, so there is some competition. But we are drawing from not just the New England region, we are drawing from outside of New England and
Wow.
Down south as well. So maybe people looking to relocate, so.
It's a testament to you.
Hmm?
Testament to you, to your program.
Well, that is to the program, definitely, and during our interviews for the last couple of positions, people mentioned, I follow you guys all the time on social media, and I, borrow stuff, and I'm really interested in this. So it is definitely a testament to the program that have been put out there in our social media presence and our therapeutic rec program. They're all things that people follow, especially therapeutic recreation too in this area where there's not a lot of departments with therapeutic recreation divisions that want to have them, and they're starting to, they follow, they ask questions, but we get questions from across the country on those as well. So it is definitely a testament to our staff and what they, the work they do. So another item, have maintenance,
No.
thought someone had a question. Another item, maintenance facility. When the facility was designed, we have 14-foot mezzanines, right? They're 14 feet. And they have access to lift things up to them and put them onto the mezzanine or stairs, but nothing to lift up the items. So I think they're kind of waiting until both buildings were done. And the town will be purchasing forklifts for each building, and we will be getting one stored on our side. It'll allow us to make better use of those mezzanines. We have lots of things that can be stored up there. So we will be getting a forklift in the coming months to access the mezzanine areas.
Question?
Kevin?
Hoisting license for that? To our staff?
They checked in, and it's not, is it 2B was required, 2A? I get them confused, the 2A, which some of our staff have.
Okay.
So they did look at that. We just completed some hoisting training as well, so they had the fresh list of who has what. And engineer, or DPW is working on that central maintenance, on procuring those.
I have another related question. Is this going to be charged against our warrant article allocation?
No, this is out of the funds that were allocated for the buildings.
Okay, excellent.
Okay, over the last few years, we have been talking about replacing the netting at Marvin Field that protects softballs and from going down into the Herb Chambers lot below. We had looked at replacing just the net, had someone come out and give us an idea of what cost could be and what we should do. And really, the poles have been there for quite a while, and they're starting to lean, and it's probably from the weight of the net. We do have some trees that grow through them. We have cut them back, but they grow back just as quickly. So we met, as I mentioned, with a company from Marshfield last week, and we did receive a quote today for $40,000, and that's for a 4-pole system. It includes 10,000 square feet of netting, the installation of the poles, and the netting as well. So it's something that I think we, if we want to do it this year, we need to do it right. It's something that we do it this way, it's going to last. We'll move it away from the fence, the poles, so it'll be a good 3 feet off of the fence line, the new system, and it'll allow us room back there to keep the trees and stuff from growing back into the net. Won't be right on the fence line, but it is going to probably go into our discussion for warrant articles for this year. I think it's a big item, and the net that's up there would say has seen its better days. We've patched it a few times, zip tied it, but it's a brittle net at this point that continued wind and ice and things like that are just going to keep further deteriorating it. This is something that I didn't think the cost would be this much, but like anything, they're getting poles, cost them $4,000, did he say, 5,000? For the poles, and, 2 years ago, they were $1,300.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
their price is, tripled. So that adds to the cost. Ask them for the best solution, because I don't wanna deal with, every couple of years having to replace the net, in something that will, last going forward. We talked about raising and lowering it, and should we lower? He said that causes more problems when you begin to raise and lower it every season or multiple times during the year. So his suggestion was to keep it up all year, and then the netting he spec'd out would be something that can withstand the weather for longer periods of time. So that, when we finalize and have all our prices, quotes in for warrant articles, we'll have that discussion whether that stays in there or not. So,
Let's pause for a minute. Questions on this item?
Same height or higher?
this would be 60 feet high. There's 60-foot poles, 10, 5%, 10% plus 2 feet have to go in the ground, so it'll be 8 feet in the ground, 52. I think it'll be a 50-foot net, 50 foot in height.
Is that the same height or lower?
I think it's a little higher. They're about, what did he say, 40?
They're about 40.
Yeah, in the low to mid 40s, I think is what he estimated at, but you were around when it was installed. So I want to say it was it early 2000s? The poles are from, have dates on them, and the poles are old. They're still in decent shape, they're just leaning, so they really need to be reset. And he doesn't recommend using the same pole, because once you start to yank it out of the ground, you're gonna cause problems with it, so. Sorry, so it'll be 50 feet high, so it'll be about 5 to 6 feet higher.
Any other
One
questions?
more. Are they gonna be responsible for cleaning out the whole area?
We would do the clean out, once we can get the net down and cut all the trees back. We probably have to cut we would be responsible, for cutting the telephone poles as well. Just leave them stumped at the fence line. We're not gonna yank them out. I don't think we have the equipment to yank them out, no. So,
Okay, great.
Any other questions? I have a question. How often do balls go over the net and damage vehicles in the Honda lot?
there is an extensive labyrinth of netting over the vehicles. This person actually does those vehicles as well.
Mhm.
Does the netting for Herb Chambers as well. And they're there 3 times a year, did he say? 3 or 4 times a year, checking. And the system that they have down there now, it's been pretty good, but they don't have a lot of cars on the lot.
Yeah.
So, but the costs definitely have gone down. They still get over our net because it's got holes in it and higher. So between high school softball, which is fast pitch, so the foul balls are a little more, come off the bat with a little more oomph maybe. But then the adult softball, the angles are different all the time. So it would be extending the length a little too. So right now they estimated the poles are about 40 feet apart, 60 feet apart. So we'd have, and there's 3 of them, we'd have 240 feet of coverage instead of 180.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on that item? Thank you, Brendan. Moving on.
Okay, we recently received our guidelines for the FY '24 budget process from the town's administrative team. They're again looking at a level services budget except for contractual obligations for the new BMEA and AMP contracts, which are going to be voted on hopefully at Monday's January town meeting. And we're working now to identify potential increases in the budget. Obviously, our utility costs are, expanding rapidly, both electric and our oil. We do have oil up at our old shop in the storage building, and we have oil at the Visco building. So we do have oil that we have to worry about as well. So I anticipate some decent increases there, especially with electricity and our field lighting in the spring. We've done a good job of making sure that our youth sports groups are good with the time they tell us they need the fields, and communicating with them. I often receive text, if a group is scheduled to use the field until 9, and at 7:30 they say, we're done for the night, can you shut off the lights, shut them off? Or if it's raining, even though they can play in the turf in the rain, and they say, you know what, we're not gonna play, they contact us before we go home and we shut off the lights. So we have done a good job there, but the costs have increased, and we will have to make some increases there. And then obviously, our materials and supplies budget, as we add more fields in for our field maintenance program, making sure we have enough costs to cover that work. So as some of our fields require less because they've gotten to a certain point where we don't have to do as many treatments, or we're not top dressing as much, other fields are coming on and need a little extra work. And Carl, I'll ask you if you can put in a word with the school department. They've been good about having a small budget for the fields we work on there. Francis Wyman, Marshall Simons, the backside, but we added Memorial last year. So I'd like to get the backside of Marshall Simons on a better schedule this year. So if there's anything we can do there, and we can have a conversation on that if you'd like, and what we'd be looking at. But it does help us. We're able to break our invoices apart, so there are schools and school fields and town fields. And there is some added cost to the school fields because we are not using any herbicides to chase out the weeds and broadleaf and all that good stuff. So,
Any questions on the budget?
Just, so when are we gonna see the budget? And is it a one-shot deal, or are we gonna get it ahead of time, discuss it, and?
nope, I can't give it to you before the contracts. Hopefully they're approved Monday night. And then we'll go through, and any increases, and I'll get it emailed out. Yes, before, I'll try to give at least a week's advance notice. If there's questions, let me know before that so we can come prepared to answer them. But I will give as much notice as I can. We've identified some areas where there'll be increases. I named a couple. I'm sure there will be some on the program side as well.
No, it's just,
We approve it here, and then we could have suggestions or recommendations from Ways and Means as well. But I'll get it as fast as I can get it to you guys, get it to you.
Any other questions? I have one question on our budget. Brendan, obviously, we're not gonna be able to level fund our budget. We have a new position, so I'm assuming the town's gonna factor that in when they're looking at our budget.
Well, it was in this year's budget, so, in the FY '23 budget, remember, we had room going into in our budget last year, and we had those lengthy conversations with Ways and Means about the added position, so it's in our budget already. So our increase, was last year. It'll be contractual increase this year,
Okay.
which they're planning on, so.
So whatever offsets we had last year, we're still,
We may have some now with people shifting from, being promoted and then bringing people in to fill positions at lower rates. So it may work out to some savings, but I'm gonna guess not a lot.
okay. But you think we can hit that target?
No, I don't think we can level, no, definitely not. We're a service-oriented department, so, our costs increase for materials and supplies, so, we have to ask for
Sure.
those increases. So, You know, services, people are always, our customers are always looking for more too. And, you know, I think our department's been pretty responsive with, you know, additional programs, adding maintenance items into the budget that maybe come up that, whether we take on a property or some work somewhere that we didn't have before, and now, you know, we have to add that into the budget. So I don't think we could do a completely level budget.
I mean, that's a guideline they give us every year, and it's just kind of something that we strive to hopefully get close to. There's no way, I think, you can maintain level services with the cost of everything else going up around it, so.
Right, right. And we do try to stay, you know, as level as possible, but again, we are a service-oriented department, and those costs increase every year.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
The other item kind of goes right off of this. The town administration is still working on finalizing capital funding for this year. Early indications are that it will look very similar to last year. That split between the schools in town, you know, they usually split 2.5 million in capital requests. Sometimes the school is closer to the 1.5 and the town gets the 1. But you know, we've already gone through our capital items for this year. We do have a truck in there, a pickup truck, landscape architect for work on our 20-year plan, as well as probably for the Simons Park project. It's a bigger project, so they may be able to do it as an offshoot of the larger plan, but we really want that as a separate. Wildmere Playground is up for replacement, and that's more of a condensing. It's a large area down there with a lot of equipment spread out. Maybe looking at condensing it a little and putting, you know, one structure in there and a new set of swings, and kind of, you know, looking at the amount of money we put in with playground fiber and stuff, and you know, decreasing that. It won't be a big decrease, but decreasing the need to add all that by putting in port in place. So we've been working with a playground company, and we're hoping next week, I think he mentioned that he could have a quote to us. So that's up on our schedule, as well as the pickleball courts. And I did receive another quote from a printer. It was a verbal. He's working on getting me the written estimate, but he's in the same range, that 50 to 70 to do that surface over. And the big thing is the access to it. It's in a tough spot, and when they're putting the asphalt, laying the asphalt down, you know, usually a dump truck rides in front of the spreader, and then they just continue to roll off of the surface. Well, there's a fence there and a drop off, and then a skate park on the other side. So there is some handwork involved in about an 8-foot stretch. At one end, you pick the end where they're not going to be able to just roll off. So it's a lot of loading the spreader box with small equipment, putting scooping the asphalt off of a truck and putting it in there. So that's where some of the expense comes in. And then one of the other items we talked about with the staff is some kind of fencing article. We need to really look at our fencing around in our parks. Some of it is 40 years old, easily, in looking at replacing some of the fencing. Been talking about, for example, Rahanis Park on Mill Street. That fence has seen its better days. It's been repaired a lot. It catches a lot of the snow. It's a narrow part of the street there, so it does get snow and stuff piled up against it. Looking at some backstops that are too small for what goes on there. So I'm working with a fence company to come in and kind of give us an overall estimate of these different areas. One of them will be the pickleball, the fence around the pickleball court, or the current street hockey, and if we move pickleball up there, it will be, you know, new fencing around there. So those are all items that are in our capital request for this year that we'll have to have a full conversation on as well, once I have all the quotes in, and I expect to have them in advance of our next meeting.
Any questions on the capital request?
I always do. Bill, the Bobcat, what are you gonna use it for?
We'd use it on ball fields, use it for grading, use it for, loom, just wherever we're doing. We've always had to borrow the highways or cemetery, Bobcat, whenever we're doing any work on ball fields or grading, doing any grading on infields or even other playing fields.
Okay, we can't use, well, the reason I say is it just eats up the grass whenever you move it. Between the weight and every time you just turn the wheels a little, it digs in. Is it something we're gonna be able to use all the time, or
I think we'd get some use out of it, yeah.
in the spring when it's wet, would you drive it over? I'm just looking, I did my snow the other day, and when I got onto the grass, I started digging it up. I just wanna make sure you've used one before.
Yeah, we've certainly had the need for it. We've borrowed one consistently every time we're having to do any kind of work.
Right.
And it delays our work too, because
Yeah.
we have to
Alright.
wait until it's available.
Yeah.
And we also, Bill and I had the conversation about the grass, getting one with tracks. Tracks does less damage on the grass. So if we were working on pavement most of the time, the wheels are better for the pavement, the tracks are better on the grass.
Even stone dust parking lots, we're working on those now, and it would be a lot easier with the Bobcat back dragging and.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we had an argument for it. In the purchase price, can we buy the pads that you can drive over the grass and not dig it up? The cemetery has them, they're fiberglass, and in the part of the purchase price,
We'll certainly look at it, we haven't looked at that.
you know, so you take it off. If you have to drive over the grass to get to the infield, you can put the sheets of fiberglass on. There's a word for it, right?
Yeah, I don't know what they are.
Wonder, could we use heavy plywood too, to do the same thing?
It gets once it gets water in it,
Yep.
it's super
Starts to
heavy.
pull. Yeah.
We have some of that skate light up there
Oh, yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know if we could be proactive, and that's what you would use it for, as the Bobcat. Can we put that in the purchase price? That's a Brendan question.
Yeah, we can ask them. I wonder if it's aftermarket. I'm sure they're buying them
We can certainly
aftermarket.
ask for a quote on
Yeah,
Yeah.
it, see if the commission wants to do it, if it's not too expensive.
Yeah, the cemetery has it, and when they drive the backhoe over the grass when it's wet, they put these sheets of fiberglass on it and drive over, and it doesn't dig up the grass. It's just, the
Something-
Bobcat, you go like this, and the wheels, that's how they turn it, it just digs into the grass, so.
we didn't even mention using it for snow removal, but we could definitely use it for
Yeah.
snow removal. We have buckets already that can attach to it, snow buckets, so. Okay.
Any other questions on the capital items? Okay. Let's move on, Brendan, if you're ready.
I'm
to,
all set. I don't have
electronic.
anything else until new business.
Okay. As we're done with the Director of Parks, Park Superintendent's report. Bill?
Okay, some things we've been working on. We've been lucky with the weather. We've got a pretty good head start taking down the holiday lights. We're about halfway done already taking down the lights on the Common and Simons and center of town. We finished leaf cleanup a couple weeks ago at the schools and parks and removed the leaf vacuum and took the leaf box off the dump truck, free that up to do other things. We finished another round of slice seeding and fertilizing in our various parks and playing fields around town. We've been repairing some of the fence around town and the gates that were in need of repair. All the gates around town were secured with chains and locks or S-hooks. We've been staking out walkways, islands and parking areas at Wildwood, TRW, Mary Cummings, and other areas to make them easier to plow. The temporary fence at Simons around, Lower Simons around the baseball and softball fields was removed to make it safer for sledding. We're in the process of resurfacing our stone dust parking lots, filling in the craters in some of those parking lots. There's a lot of washouts. We've been refilling them with stone dust. We regrade them a couple times a year. We've been doing a little work on the Visco building, replaced the coat hooks in the entryway. We've started to go through all our small and larger equipment. It's the time of year for performing preventive maintenance and making repairs on them as needed. We've been bringing in picnic tables from our parks, a couple at a time, and painting and repairing them. Put up some temporary fencing at the pickleball courts. We also removed 2 birch trees from the entrance, either side of the entrance at Fox Hill School. We've been backfilling some trees were taken down on the common, some large trees, and we've been backfilling the stumps and sinkholes out there. And we've been keeping up with trash and recycling at the park, schools, and town buildings.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Any questions for Bill's report? Okay, seeing none. Thank you. We will move on to our Programming Assistant Director's report. Kelly.
Thanks. So just prior to the new year, we were provided with a timeline for the 2022 annual report, and Brendan and I have begun working on the report, which highlights our department's accomplishes throughout the year. The report is slated to be submitted to the town no later than February 10th, and once that's completed, we will pass that information on to the commission. As you know, the program staff, Jesse and Emma and myself, had the opportunity to attend the Northern New England Recreation and Park Conference at the Mountain View Grand Resort in Whitefield, New Hampshire, from January 4th to the 6th. The conference brought all of our colleagues together throughout the region, and there was a lot of great educational experiences and discussions on innovative programming. Emma and I had the honor of presenting at the conference, and our educational session was very well received from our colleagues up there. We've received several phone calls and shared a lot of our information with people who were interested in learning more about what we did last summer for our summer staff initiative. Last year, the programming division published the first year in review. This document includes information on our program services, special events, and updates on projects that have been completed, along with their funding sources. I've begun working with the program staff to complete this document for 2022. And moving forward, I hope to include information as it relates to the entire department, including more specific information regarding maintenance and registration information, including initiatives that the office staff has started as well. And then, as you know, you approved new workstations for our office staff, and that they will be delivered this Friday, so that'll complete our reorganization of the office. We've moved some things around. We got new paint and carpet. This is kind of the last piece of the puzzle in there. So if you walked in the office next week, it's gonna look like a whole new place. So
Fantastic.
that's all I have.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Are there any questions on Kelly's report?
Any major events coming up that you want to highlight?
Not currently, no.
Okay, excellent. We have a spectator. It'd be great to tell him all the exciting things we do.
We do lots of great things, but we don't have any events. It's
Oh, that's right, that's right. Yeah.
it's a quiet winter for us right now.
Skiing programs, youth basketball going on too, program-wise.
Mention program.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm just saying, our big ones going on now are youth basketball and skiing. We're actually getting some snow, maybe, so that'll help the ski programs.
Okay, thank you very much, Kelly, for that report. Chairman's report, I don't really have anything in detail to report. We do have a January town meeting coming up. However, we really don't have, unless something happens with the acceptance of that little strip of land on Skilton Lane, there's nothing that would require the Recreation Commission to be present at the meeting. Brendan will be there. With respect, I believe, to any questions that might come up with the BMEA contract, but I don't think you'll have much to do, Brendan. Am I right?
I don't think so. I think they put a lot of work into both the BMEA and the A&P contracts, negotiated them for quite a while. I'd say Bill was on the negotiating team for the BMEA, so hopefully they're all set and ready to go, and it'll be a good vote.
If you had to bet, would you assume that we're not going to go forward with the Skilton Lane approval if there's a title issue?
Yeah, I don't really know, because I didn't get into the nuts and bolts of what the issue was. It was just on hold for a little bit.
Mhm.
So I did talk with the town administrator today. That topic was not one that we spoke about, so I'm guessing that it might be on hold.
It's not really a pressing issue
No,
right now.
no,
You
it's
certainly
not.
wait till May.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have plans to do anything with that piece of property. It's just nice to add it
Mhm.
to the park. So.
Okay. Any subcommittee reports this evening?
I got a little,
Bill.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a little, a planning board note. Tomorrow night, the No Bloom Company will be applying for a minor engineering change up on, I think it's, they call it Blue Sky,
I saw that. sir.
right? Which is the old Oracle, not the Oracle, the Sun Microsystems area. And they're gonna put in one pickleball court.
Interesting.
So
Is it just for their employees, or will it be open to the
the
public?
questions will be asked tomorrow night.
Ask the
But it's very
forest.
unusual that's just one, because, you know, for you folks that have been up to the pickleball courts, you could fit a pickleball court right in the center here. So usually you see multiple pickleball courts, because it
Yeah.
does take up a small area. But I don't know, Brendan, have you been talking to him on that at all?
Yes, so they had sent an email yesterday asking for some feedback. So I did provide feedback today. You know, the goal of that one pickleball court, I believe, is right in the center of the campus. They call it the amenity patio area. And it's a great idea, right? It's going to help potentially attract some businesses that, you know, the employees or the company wants active employees, and provides a great amenity there on the new Blue Sky campus. And I did, you know, mention that it will be popular. There's a high demand for pickleball courts now all over the place, that we draw from as far away as Worcester and the South Shore and southern New Hampshire to play in our courts, and that they're busy all the time. I mentioned that it would be great to work with them on some additional courts, and maybe some kind of agreement. They could be used as overflow for their employees, so because that one court in the center will fill up, and you can only have 4 people on it max at a time. And then we would love to talk with them about possibly, you know, one of the outer parking areas along the new Blue Sky Drive, I think they call it now. And it's already on Google Maps. It's already changed from Network Drive to Blue Sky Drive, so they're quick. But putting something out there and coming up with some type of agreement, similar to what we have with like MITRE. You know, MITRE owns that piece that we have a couple ball fields on, the cricket pitch, and we have an agreement to use it. So hopefully they'll read that into the record tomorrow night, and it will reach someone else's ears that maybe I didn't speak with in the past. So, and, you know, out of that, it really would be a benefit for them. We'd have to work on management of it, and maybe we take on the maintenance and the upkeep, and, you know, down the road, possibly the replacement, you know, in 15, 20 years, if we're able to work something out. So I know you'll speak in favor of it tomorrow night and ask the questions, because we've had plenty of conversations here about it. It would just be a benefit for the town, and something I think they can probably work into their large plans up there.
You know, Bill, right now, if you go up to the Sun Microsystems campus, Blue Sky, whatever they call it, they've got acres and acres of parking lots that are just empty. Because the planning board used to have those regulations, you had to have so many
Right.
spaces per, and now you got more people that are working remotely. They don't even need that. I don't know if the planning board is
Well, they,
amending their parking number requirements.
they,
but-
the Nordblum Group had actually got approved by town meeting to put, I think, 4 buildings and maybe 2 parking garages on those parking
Oh, really?
spots, yeah, so they're gonna fill them up.
Oh,
but
they're
I
already
think
using them, yeah.
If there's a little bit of extra, which I
Maybe
think
we
there
can
might
put
be.
the pickleball courts on the top of the garage.
That's a great idea,
Yeah.
that actually happens, is up in Cambridge, so.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's, that would be a great idea as well, just mark them up there and, yeah.
Be nice.
Do they have parking under some of the new buildings? Do they have a couple floors of
They-
parking?
They hadn't, they don't have specific plans, but
Okay.
when it was presented to us, it was buildings in separate parking garages.
Yeah,
But again, that was just conceptual.
Yeah.
I
I'm
think
sure
I
more,
think the lab buildings do, Brendan.
do they?
I think they do,
Okay.
because they have concrete foundation walls that are above
Yeah,
20 feet high. I
yeah,
think
the
that's right.
elevation there is a
Yeah.
little interesting.
Okay. And obviously, grass instead of pavement would be preferred
Right.
anywhere, so.
Okay, any other subcommittee reports? And before we get on to new business, we did have public participation earlier in the evening. I see Ms. Ellis out there. Did you want to
No,
participate publicly?
Asked me to come, just if you have any questions on the sign. I'm from the ZBRC, so I'm here for the sign.
Okay, fine, very good.
Thank
All
you.
right, new business, vote to support electronic signs. Director Egan.
Right, thank you. So as I had emailed you back in, I think, end of December, the select board is presenting a zoning change at January town meeting to allow for the placement of an electronic sign in place of the post and banner that we have used on the town common. The sign would be state-of-the-art and would allow for multiple events and messages to cycle through on the same day and avoid conflicts that we have between departments and groups due to the limitations of only having, being able to put one sign out there, one banner out there at a time. So the select board would like to, us to consider voting to support the initiative so they could let town meeting know that this would be a benefit to our department.
Okay, let's open it up for discussion from the board. Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I had a couple of comments. It did come before the planning board, and it was approved with one abstention on a concept. At that time, they didn't quite have language properly set up, and it was a bit of work in progress. I did get the latest copy, maybe the latest copy of what is being proposed at town meeting, and I have a couple of concerns. So I as written, or as I have what I perceive to be the latest copy, I won't be able to support that. There's a couple of things in the language itself. So I think, in general, I think that it's a good idea if you could have the sign that could be externally lit and change it, at a very slow rate. You don't want to have it scrolling. This allows for alphabetic, pictographic, symbolic. It allows for electrical imaging, video boards, and holographic displays. At least that's what I have for the current language. So, from the town center standpoint, I think that's completely inappropriate. So I wouldn't be able to support that as written. In addition, at the planning board, it was noted, I think, by one of the selectmen that when I asked, they were going to get rid of the highway sign that's up at Simon's. I actually said, could we put the sign up in Simon's instead of on the town common? Because, you really don't want to downgrade the town common there. And they said, yeah, that was going to replace the highway sign. But I saw the video of the zoning bylaw committee, and I think the administrator had said that they are keeping the highway sign and could deploy it other places or actually keep it up at Simon. So that being said, just for a number of reasons, I just can't support this as I currently see it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Bill. Brendan, have you had any conversation about the specific language of the warrant article?
I have not, I know it's something that's been, Kevin, you've been on the commission 20-something years, right, or 20 years, so it's been discussed for that long. I remember one of my first duties when I was hired back in '99 was to go with Bill Boudreau and change the letters on the small, remember the small box sign with the, like, 3-inch letters? So I've seen a couple different iterations, I guess, of the sign out there. It would be great to, our guys go and change the sign, you know, every week.
The banners across the street.
Yeah, that's right, from Simons to the town common, and those poles are down now, so, they, you know, they've been doing it for quite a while. It's, you know, a multi-tiered, approach. Someone applies, they come to our department, they, you know, we tell them, select board makes that decision, they go to the select board, they approve it, not approve it, create a list, and then the banners come to us, then the, you know, the people come and drop off the banners. So, having a new electronic sign, would be great. I think it would clean up the whole process. You know, its location, I, you know, I think it's fine. I think they've had the police weigh in on it. But as far as the terms of what the sign would entail, you know, I think that's out of our purview, so to speak. I think that'd be, you know, something that would be in the language. And is the language committed to, or is it something that could change? Or the idea of getting the sign is the biggest thing and then working on the language as you go forward?
Yeah, how it usually works is, you know, you get the final language that's being proposed to town meeting, and I think I have the latest one, but again, at the planning board, it was a concept, which was approved with one abstention. But, you know, as it's written, you know, it's in the bylaw, it would be in the bylaw like this, so the items that I've mentioned, again, holographic, pictorial, video, that would be allowed. So even if there's guidelines that some sort of subcommittee comes up with, it's still allowed within the bylaw. I gotta be honest with you, I was going by, some of you live in the North Shore, it was up in Hamilton, up near Patton Park. And Hamilton actually has one electronic sign, not at the park itself, which is kind of their town center-ish, right? With the tank there, but over across the street at the school. And it was Saturday night, and it was a scrolling Happy New Year sign. And, you know, I saw that and kind of it really added to where I don't think the town center, right on the town common, should have electronic sign where you could have scrolling letters and pictures and holograms, and maybe up that Third Ave, that's appropriate, right? But, you know, if you look at the town center design guidelines, that's really not in there. But I think the technology is there, that you could have an electronic sign. Think about ones in the airport and things like that. Really state-of-the-art, not necessarily with figures or fireworks and things, which we could have if we're gonna have fireworks there. You'd probably suggest let's have a little fireworks sign for the 4th of July, or, you know, Santa Claus or something like that, which I think is really inappropriate for the town center, right on the town common. But I think there's an opportunity there to have a sign, maybe externally lit, that you can change electronically with the letters. But the current language, as I see it, actually does not limit it to that, and it's quite above. Originally, they're talking about have multiple signs on every building in town that could be with video, and that was pulled back. But still, I don't think it's in really good shape for what I believe in. It should be kind of a first-class electronic sign on the town common. You know, and again, the one I saw up in Hamilton, it just, as I drove by at night, it was just, I said, oh boy, that's what's coming. And I think once people see that, if it comes to fruition, I think they'll probably have second thoughts on it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Kevin?
So, if I have it correct, and you can correct, I was talking to Selectman Morandi, and it was gonna go in the corner where we used to have our sign, is that correct? Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so that it doesn't, I don't think it's specific on where it says it goes. So it could go anywhere on the town common.
That's where he said they were gonna propose it.
Yeah, but that's not in the language.
Okay.
Right, so it could go anywhere.
We, ever since Bill Boudreau left,
Mhm.
we've been asking, or I've been asking that we do some kind of sign.
Mhm.
It's archaic to do the letters like they were. It just takes too much time. But the residents, you know, it would be really nice, they get the brochure, they don't even have the brochure sitting on their desks anymore, on tables like we used to. It would be great advertising for the concerts on the Common, the movies, any events we have going on. I miss having that sign up there. I've said it years and years ago that, you know, can we get it back? And we talked about electronic back when it was archaic.
Mhm.
You know, the technology's gotten better. It'd be an advantage to recreation and just for, and I miss it. I really miss having that sign up there telling people what's going on for recreation, and it's another tool to help residents know what's going on and maybe, you know, help get us more attendance at our events too. So, the language, I'm not an expert on. I don't know if Sherry is on the bylaw committee, if they've studied it. But the idea of having an electronic sign there I'm in favor of.
And the concept, that's what came for the planning board, without the exact language, so,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think you heard, I said, I think that it's appropriate with the technology that's available, but, you know, with your, again, and I don't know if you'd be in favor of holographic displays in the town common, electronic imaging, video boards, you know, that's something that you can maybe vote on a concept, but if you're gonna vote on the language, I'd suggest that folks actually read it, and if you're gonna vote for it. And again, I don't know if I have the latest, because it's been fairly rushed. So, it may not be the latest. Sherry might advise if what I have is the latest, or I don't know. I mean, Chairman, it's up to you to.
Sherry, why don't you join us, please? Just identify yourself for the folks at home.
Thanks. Sherry Ellis, on the Zoning Bylaw Review Committee, actually the chair. So Bill Gaffney asked me to just come and, so I can give a little bit of context to this. It was, as Bill said, a little rushed. I know everyone's been talking about this for a long time. The sign's been missing for a long time. But the select board really just brought it before us in December, wanting to make January town meeting. So the planning board didn't even have language. They just voted on a concept, leaving the language to us. The language that Bill is referring to, I don't know if he has the warrant. It's actually in the warrant. And so our committee reviews the language of bylaws when it's presented to us. And our mission is basically to take what's given to us, you know, make it clear, concise, and conform to Mass General Law and things like that. So we don't change what they bring us, except for, you know, just making it clear. So I appreciate your comments about the holographic images and things. The language that is in there is actually in a draft of the sign, town center overlay sign bylaws that our committee is working on, and it's a draft right now. So when the select board came and wanted electronic signs, they didn't have any definitions. So town council just grabbed these definitions. So these really are still in review process with our committee for the town center overlay, which this sign is actually in the town center overlay. So again, some of our committee members, I'm gonna say the majority of our committee members, feel this is very rushed. But we're working with the language that, you know, and the bylaw that we were given. We did approve the language, as we think it's clear and concise. I certainly appreciate the input about holographic images. We did have some concerns and expressed them that, you know, flashing signs, you know, scrolling really fast. It's a precarious corner. The reason we have the two poles with the banner is because my understanding is the original sign was crashed into. That may be mistaken, but that's my understanding. And so therefore, it's a dangerous spot. We asked maybe should it be on the Simon's Park side. So we discussed this when the select board came to us and said, you know, we really like more thought put into this. maybe postpone it and have some more thought. So the select board did create I don't know what the title of it is, Sign Advisory Committee. And I think there's a couple members of the planning board. There was a member from our committee. They've had one meeting. I think the gist of our members basically said, we're approving this language, but as far as town meeting members go, when we come to town meeting, we want to see that you've talked to a sign company, what really is going to look like. They have, some examples in their backup. Most of those examples probably wouldn't fit within the bylaw. Currently, the bylaw allows for a 6-foot by 10-foot sign. And that is basically, I don't know if you've seen the Human Services Building, the new monument sign there. That's about the size that you would be allowed by the bylaw. So it's pretty small for what I think they'd like. But I don't know because we really haven't seen anything more. We discussed this in December, as I said, and it went to print. And so I haven't seen anything further from that. So that's a little bit of background to this. So.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems like one of the more rushed zoning bylaws I've come across in my experience. I haven't even had a chance to look at this, and I kind of like it to have more time to think this over. And I don't know if I'm going to be in a position to vote in favor of this before the January town meeting. What date is it, the 24th?
It's Monday, yeah.
23rd. Are they definitely going to vote for it present it to the town on the 23rd?
That's the latest I've heard. I actually have an email into Paul Sagarino with a couple additional questions, and I had a couple additional edits that I went back and looked at, and they're talking, so I haven't heard back yet. So yeah, it's.
I can't, just glancing at this, is it going to allow both externally illuminated and internally illuminated?
Yeah, according to what's here, it could be either.
or.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not opposed to internally illuminated signs. When I was on the school committee, we fought for them for years, and you had to go to the zoning board to get permission for an internally illuminated sign, and I think there were 2 members that didn't like them, and they were afraid that if they granted the school committee the variance to have it, they'd have to grant it to everyone else, and lo and behold, by the time the Burlington School Department got their new internally illuminated sign, they were all over town. Everybody else had them, so.
Right. The concept of the internally illuminated that the zoning bylaw review committee talking about over the signs is the e-ink, where that's a new type of, it's a lower, I don't know what the correct terminology is, lower lumens and things like that. So it's, it's up and coming. And so, we suggested to look into that. Again, don't know much about it. We're hoping that they have design companies, manufacturers, people that they're talking with. And we did have some concerns that it's on that corner. We also allowed, this language also allows for it to be within the setbacks, which the current sign is kind of within the setback. So it's not making anything worse, but that's really close to the corner. And I know many of you have stood on the corner holding signs at some points in time. So you know where the location of that is.
Don't remind us, yeah.
You know where the location is, and it's a difficult corner. Coming from Bedford Street to Cambridge Street, the clearance to me is the sight lines are tight too. Understanding that the police have looked at it, but I've stood up there on the corner. It's kind of a little challenging, so.
Bill, what was the final decision of the planning board? Are they going to take it up again?
No, it was,
No.
again,
That's-
it had to go through that night for, for the zoning bylaw review committee to look at it themselves. And I recall from the video that I saw that it was fairly rushed into your committee as well. Your committee members wanted to look at it like you do, Mr. Chairman. But it had to be that night live, kind of real time, to get it to publication like the next day or something.
Right,
Was that
where our
correct?
meeting was Wednesday and the print deadline was Friday. And I know the planning board does not typically open up and close a public hearing in one night, and
Yeah, so it
that's
was-
what they did, so.
It's a bit of work, and again, it was a concept, and I happened to be remote because of COVID issue at my house, and, so it was having the latest and greatest, which I wasn't able to get, and, so ultimately, it was an approval of a concept and I forget the wording, but it was for a sign, electronic sign on the town common, but So they didn't actually approve that language,
Okay.
yeah.
We're gonna
If-
leave
if
it up
that's
to
your
town, we're
understanding
gonna
as well.
approve the concept. I suppose one option is for the committee to approve the concept and leave it up to town meeting to haggle over the language.
Yeah, I abstained
we-
because I thought it was very unusual that to put something, to approve on town meeting a concept. So I just abstained because I usually try to have exact language of a bylaw in front of me to approve or not to approve.
Yeah, that would
So-
be my preference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the concept whole thing was, trying to get things moving on that, and I just couldn't support that, I thought it was the wrong way to go.
Okay. Well, whatever the will of the committee is, does anyone want to make a motion, or do we want to table this, or vote it down? Kevin?
If it gets to town meeting, if they want to amend it, we have vocal town meeting members that would stand up and say, we want to take the video part out of it and so forth. For recreation, we've asked for this for years, and it would be a good thing, and the concept of it and the idea of having it would be good for recreation. The wording, I'm not an expert on it, but the people at town meeting, if they have objections, can eliminate things at town meeting. So I would hate for us not to vote on it and hurt its chances of passing because we weren't sure of the language. So I would make a motion that we support the electric sign on the town common.
Is your
As
motion
the
to
motion.
support the concept of an electric sign, or the language that's proposed in the bylaw?
We weren't given this.
Yeah, it's not official, so I wouldn't say you'd have to,
Yeah,
right, so that's just, I don't even know if that's the latest. So you may want to just do a concept like the planning
you want
board
to
did.
put the word concept in, Kevin, in your motion?
Sure.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for the Recreation Commission to support the concept of an electric sign, or maybe two, I guess it says in here.
No.
Oh.
I think it was
Electric
just-
sign,
I think,
I-
just one electric sign, I think they said.
It's one
it one?
electric sign. They put two in there because there is an existing sign already on the town common
This is
further
Town of
down, the
Burlington?
town
Oh,
of
sure,
Burlington
yeah,
sign.
yeah.
So it really is two, but their intention is
One new electric sign.
obviously one
Okay,
electric sign.
okay, that's the motion. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yeah, I'm going to abstain just to be consistent with.
Sure, I just want the minutes to reflect that our vote is not voting to approve signs that would include video boards, holographic displays, and what are the other, flashing with a,
Whatever the language says, yeah, it was,
Plasma screen, digital screen, flat screen, LED screen.
I don't really care about the screens, as long as they're not flashing and a distraction. I think that video boards, I'm not even clear what a video board would look like on the town common. Sherry, are these new signs that they're asking for, are they gonna fall under the existing limitations in terms of whatever the size currently is?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, unless they go to the Board of Appeals to get a larger sign.
get them,
So that's how they'd have to,
okay.
get a larger sign there.
There's two different ones here. Electronic display sign, which has all the holographic LED, et cetera, and then electronic message sign. Maybe we want to support the message sign instead of a display sign, if we really want to get into the details.
The message sign is actually the DPW sign, that kind of message sign, so it's a little different.
Oh, those are the ones that are on those little trailers
The little-
that they tow
I
around and leave
think
all
so,
over the
yeah.
town? Okay.
Again, this language was taken from the draft of our, draft signage for the town center overlay. So it's not real specific towards this particular sign. And because the select board doesn't really have anything specific as to exactly where they're going, this was just kind of a general definition that was taken because they were asking for a sign that wasn't defined, so they couldn't have one. So they had to get a definition. So this is what was available.
Okay.
Okay, so
Well, Kevin.
my motion is simple. It's just to
Concept.
support the concept of electronic sign on the town common. None of the other verbiage.
okay.
Just
Keep it
Alan,
simple.
unless you want to
simple.
make a motion to amend Kevin's motion, we're gonna go with Kevin's.
That's fine
Is
with
that
me.
okay?
Yeah.
All right, is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? All right, seeing none, we'll put the motion to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All abstained?
Abstain.
301. Thank you. Thank you, Sherry.
Thank
Sure,
you.
thank you for doing
Thank
this.
you, Sherry, very
Coming.
nice.
Appreciate it.
Okay, moving on with new business, Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation report. We
It's
did-
already done.
that's
Kelly
done.
gave that
Why is
earlier,
under-
yep.
Why is it under new business? All right,
That's where it was. You called her in at the
okay.
programming report, I think out of habit.
That's right, I know. Well, she's giving that report anyway, right? Is that what we?
I already did.
Yeah, yeah, but that's what going forward, we'll be doing that. We talked about the FY '24 capital plan.
Yes.
The order of business for commission meeting, second reading.
Yep.
One quick point of order before we vote on this. Oftentimes, in my experience, if we're voting on a policy and there's a member absent, we usually wait until we have a full quorum on the policy language. Is there any urgent need to vote on this tonight?
No, I was actually gonna suggest we leave it open for one more, just to make sure that, we have extra time to read it, and if there's any other
Okay,
comment.
well,
that
Chair will
comes up.
entertain a motion to table this item until our next meeting.
So made.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, that's unanimous. Are there any items of old business tonight?
I had one question.
Alan?
It's-
come.
It's not really old business, it's something that was asked of me, about summer registration. I don't know if you guys are even thinking about that at this point. You probably are, you're probably planning for it, always.
Thinking about it before last summer ended, we were thinking about how the next summer will be.
So this resident was asking me about when, if you have a rough idea of when registration would be, and how early it could be, because they're already starting to plan their summer and wanted to just.
Yeah, we get this question a lot in the office. We have a lot of people calling now. So, what our timeline, our rough timeline is, we will do spring registration, the first couple weeks of March usually. And summer registration will be the last couple weeks of April.
Okay,
We try to align ourselves so that parents can make decisions about their summer in regard to what the school's offering in addition to what we're offering. So like, they know they're going to 1 week to Summer Central, 1 week to Simons, 1 week here, but that's the soonest we would get that out there is, we shoot for by May 1st.
okay. And they were just saying we're already looking, some of their other summer camps were already registering, already now in January.
Yep.
And they were wondering if it would ever, any year, not this year, I don't think it's possible for this year, but in the future, would you guys be willing to, I don't know if you can even make those plans this early.
So, we look at it a lot. A lot of our, colleagues in other towns start registering in February, January timeframe. Our timeline as far as our staff returning and our staff ratios, we're starting to reach out to staff now, so we
Yeah.
would have to look at that timeline and basically redo
Right,
the whole thing.
right,
So I don't anticipate that changing in the next couple of years,
Okay.
but that, I wouldn't wanna rule it out altogether.
okay,
Because we do get feedback that everybody's doing it earlier and earlier, which we understand, but at the same time, we can't go into summer thinking we have this many staff members and knowing that probably 20% of them are going to quit or find other jobs or internships or other things going on. So it's a hard balance,
Absolutely.
for us, so
Yeah.
that's why we do it the way we do.
gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Any other items of old business? Brendan, you all set?
I have none.
All right. We have no need for an executive session this evening,
No.
okay? All right, if there's nothing further to come before the commission, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to just discuss meetings for February,
Very, very good.
because I would like to
Yeah, let's do
have
that.
two
I had
in
it circled.
February, if we can. So, just looking at availability for people, potentially post-Super Bowl week. I think the Super Bowl is the Super Bowl the 5th,
I think it is the 5th.
the 12th this year. Oh, yeah, that's right, there's a week in between. So,
It's the 12th, wow.
so maybe something the week of the 6th through the 10th, and then again, the 20th through the 21st is school vacation week. So, 2 weeks in a row, or the first full week, and then somewhere on the 27th possibly. I don't know what people's schedules look like, but having two
Without
gives us.
Commissioner Norton here, Brendan, I'm a little, maybe we
Yeah.
can just do some tentative
So-
dates.
Yeah, we could do that. I could put out the week of the 6th through the 10th, and then, somewhere in the 27th, 28th. I mean, if we got into that week and it was March 1st, it's, but staying away from school vacation week, obviously.
Yeah,
Some people do travel.
When is that?
That,
That's the
school
week of the
vacation is
20th.
the 20th through the 24th. But I would like to have two, so I can send an email out.
let's just talk about the week of the 26th. Is everybody available on the 27th?
I could do that.
Kevin?
You're way quicker than me.
How about you, Bill? The 27th look all right?
Oh, that would be nice. Any pre-COVID, our original meeting dates were the second and the fourth Mondays.
Yeah, yeah.
And then everything got changed.
Why don't we try to do the 27th, Brendan,
27th.
and then we'll keep a couple of dates open during the week of the 6th.
Okay,
Maybe the 6th or the 8th, we'll circulate that, see what Dave can do. I'd rather not do it in March if we don't have to.
yes, and I will put that out there.
Very good.
So everyone can weigh in and, but yes, then we can have discussions on the budget and capital. You do the budget first, because that's due sooner, and then go right to capital at the second meeting.
Excellent.
Start it at the first meeting if we have time, and,
That'll give us more time for backup, too, on the capital items.
yep. And again, with capital items, we still see large fluctuations in prices for things, so.
Oh, sure.
What we get in, if we got a quote in December, can be completely different now, in going forward.
Sure.
So we have to be prepared for that as well. So, I don't
Okay.
have anything else.
Anyone else have any items for tonight? All right. There's now a motion on the floor to adjourn by Mr. Sullivan, seconded by Mr. Gaffney. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, and that's unanimous. Thank you all.
Excellent.